Today's guest is a longtime friend of mine, Brent Germany. Brent is a top real estate team leader here in the North Dallas area. His team helps hundreds of families every year buy and sell. And he has a great insight on what's going on in the market. We talk about, of course, real estate, living in North Dallas, and entrepreneurship. Thanks for joining us. At Keller Williams, I think, right?
Yes.
You were thinking about advertising on Zillow.
Was
and
that
called?
when?
Yeah, and called to ask.
And you were doing it first?
Yeah, I was. I know. It probably breaks your heart.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I'd been doing it for a while. I'd been advertising with them for a while. And then you're like, hey, I want to know about this Zillow. And I don't remember who the sales manager was.
Was it Nick Sfretto?
Yeah, it was Nick Sfretto.
So did he tell me to call you?
I don't know. I think it was somebody at Keller Williams.
I think so too.
Who said, hey, talk to this guy. He wants to know about it. Tammy.
Yeah.
And so then I came over and we started chatting and kept chatting.
The rest is history.
And the rest is history.
Now, were you across the parking lot? Then you moved over.
Yeah. Then I was able, an office opened up right across from you and you had like
worst
three
mistake
offices.
of your life. Worst mistake.
Yeah. Well, I did get the impression that when I left to come to Compass that you were like, oh, you left before me. But it gave you back an office.
Well, it was really funny too because I feel like Keller Williams stuck us across the hallway on purpose because we're rowdy, you know?
A little bit.
We're okay.
Yeah. Also, I think we built our businesses on leads, which is for a lot of agents kind of confusing.
It can be.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting that you say that because I just had to do my continuing education in Florida.
This month?
Well, in Florida.
Oh, snap.
And I've never done anything with it. And I was actually saying, like, do I even want to do this? There's so much business here in DFW. Do I need to keep going?
Yeah.
And the answer to me is probably no. But let's take a couple classes and keep it just in case. But I'm having to learn. It's like learning about appraisals and things like that you already know.
Yeah.
And it talked about leads and purchasing leads. And it's like, it's the worst idea you could ever do. And it's like, that's what they teach you in your continuing ed in Florida. And I've built a business on it.
Right.
So
this is a struggle that I have with the real estate industry overall. I hate to start the podcast bashing the industry we're in. But I think a lot of agents are old fashioned in their thinking. Like they don't always treat it like a business. Because the business would say, how do we acquire more customers?
Right.
Okay, well, we're going to market or we're going to buy leads. And they just figure it out. But agents are like super against that.
The industry is changing.
Yeah.
The days of having your picture on your sign in the front yard are over. Your glamour shot.
Well, a lot of people that are glamour shot, I meet them in person and it's
that's
pretty
not
old.
You. That's not you.
We take photos twice a year on our team. And then sometimes I'm like, I kind of want to use an old photo, but I better not.
Well, you know, you and I like to talk about technology, and we could go down a rabbit hole on all of that. And I do think, though, that with the rise of AI, we're going to see huge differences. I mean, we use it to write our property descriptions right now.
Yeah.
So, and it churns it out.
I feel like it gives us a 75-80% solution, and then you like humanize it a little more, add some extra emotion.
Absolutely. But I do think with, again, lead generation, we think about who's your inside salesperson that's calling leads and warming them up and doing all that. Are you trying to build this department out as a team and pay these salaries and bonuses? And I think AI is going to come in and just text message it. There are things being done right now where you couldn't tell the difference when you got a phone call and it's not a person.
Yeah, Google called me the other day.
It's the Matrix.
Yeah.
It is.
I go back and forth
Skynet.
with this.
It's Skynet. There's an older reference.
I go back and forth with this though because the part of me gets really excited about the technology and
I love
the possibility and leveraging it, but then I'm like, there's some downsides here too that are. Some people are going to get probably crushed by the technology wave that's happening or the revolution that's happening.
It's going to put a lot of companies out of business.
Yeah.
And that stinks for those companies.
Yeah.
I think that in real estate, there's always going to be a need for the agent.
Well, it's an emotional business and there needs a human component.
Well, the biggest thing that we teach our agents on the team is like the house is nice. That's the vehicle.
Yeah.
But it's relationships.
Right.
And you don't generally get that through like just lead generation. So you have to know how to talk to people correctly.
Yes.
And it's really not hard. We're just people.
Yeah. It's so fun too when you did help somebody buy a house and then 3 months later they invite you over and it's like their home and they're like, come over and have a drink. We want to show it to you. And you're like, okay, this is real, because the magic wasn't the structure. It was like the family and the memories that are created inside of it.
And I think where that gets tough is, especially for me, and this is more of a personal like revelation, I guess, is I have friends that, you know, I had kids later in life. I had my kids when I was 37, I guess. And I have lots of friends that had kids earlier, and I just get so mad that they didn't want to hang out. Like, what's the deal? And now they're just laughing at me, like, hey, you want to go do something? Because my kids are old. And I was like, I can't. And they're like,
this is where
you finally get it. And the reason I say that is even with clients that you go like, man, we're friends, and they want to hang out. And you're like, I'm so wiped after, because we go to work all day, and then it's piano lessons and baseball lessons and baseball coaching and games on the weekends. Like, you don't have time to really have a social life at all, because your social life is your family, which is awesome. I wouldn't change it for the world. But the way to remedy that is client events. More of them have happy hours. It doesn't have to be everybody, you know, and I encourage our agents on our team to leverage their partners, our lending partners, or title partners, or whoever it is, to go out and, hey, you know, you're 2 years into this. How many clients do you really have? Past clients, 30? Yeah, well, that's easy.
That's 30 relationships too, though.
It is
30 families that have been impacted.
It is. So, and it's, if you take that approach, I think it just takes you to the next level, because again, you know, I'm in coaching, and with that, one of the things I love most about coaching is the mastermind with other agents, with other team leaders around the country. And I was talking to someone, and we had a mastermind in Mexico in January. We do it in Mexico every year.
Nice.
Yeah, it is. And I brought the kids, and it was great. And I talked to him, and he does, you know, 400 or 500 deals a year, transactions a year. He has his own little micro team, and he does 165 by himself.
Wow.
Which is amazing. And I said, you know, out of that, how much is that, you know, lead generation? He's like, oh, like 35%. And you and I are kind of the opposite end of that spectrum.
Yeah, we're probably 65%.
But, you know, we're being foolish. We have to fix it. And those are things that we're fixing now, because, you know, I've had a tendency, being in a MIS computer science background, having those degrees, you get tunnel vision on it, and you almost have to like untrain yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, the technology gets exciting, but the humans are where the actual magic is.
Well, and the nice part too is, like, I mean, you're the same way. You love the technology, but you're a people person.
Yeah,
so the technology it's a great mixture.
Should like improve the customer experience, but not like replace
and you have a good work ethic, you know. So those three things that's magic in this industry.
Yeah. So you mentioned your background. You had a degree in computer science.
Yes.
What brought you to Texas?
Well, I moved here. My dad was here. So I moved here in 8th grade and went to high school in Plano.
Okay, but you're from Mississippi. And you went to, I know very well that you went to school in Mississippi. What's that school?
Ole Miss, hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.
Gotta say it.
And so I think I associate you mostly with Mississippi, but it sounds like you really grew up here in Plano.
I did, but you know, we can go out and have a beer and my accent will slide back down.
Which high school did you go to in Plano?
Plano Senior.
Oh, nice.
They didn't have Plano West. I'm old.
I wasn't there yet.
Yeah,
okay.
I wasn't there yet.
And so then you went to school in Mississippi and came back to Texas.
I did. It took a while to get out of school.
It's hard to leave Texas, though. Like, people seem to.
I know you're a Cornell guy. We're the Harvard of the South, as we like to say.
Exactly. There you go.
No, I'm just kidding. That's Vanderbilt.
Yeah. So then, what brought you back here? Did you go straight into real estate, or did you do something?
No. Oh gosh, no. I was not any. Real estate wasn't even on the brain.
Yeah.
That just dumb luck. Really. I did MIS, so I was web programming for different companies, really trying to find my way. And when I graduated, it was put your resume on monster.com and Career Builder. Right. Yeah, you remember those?
Yeah, so you probably graduated in early 2000s.
Right, I did.
Which is the same as me, yeah.
So when we did that, we moved here, and I bounced around from job to job trying to find it, and just really felt lost. And happened to start developing sort of an IDX website, and I needed access to the MLS feed. So I needed a license to do that. At least I think I did. And so I got my license, and I needed to hang it somewhere. And, I know someone at Keller Williams Plano that I went to high school with, and
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah, Tony Brody.
Yeah.
And so Tony and Denton Aguam, those two guys got me over to Keller Williams Plano. I stayed there for 9 years.
Right. So did you, and that's where we met right there.
Right.
But did you start out on a team, or did you start as a solo agent?
No. So my last job was at Mary Kay. And everyone says, "No, did you drive a pink Cadillac?" Like, no, I was a web programmer. But I have to say I was very fortunate. I have a buddy that's a lender, and he worked with veterans.
Oh, nice.
Yep, like yourself. And it was a lot of VA business. And then when I got my license in 2011, getting closing costs and things like that was completely doable. Yeah. And people weren't scared of the VA loan, and because we have just this crazy. It
was a way different market.
Way different. So I was able to come and go as I pleased at Mary Kay. I could get my full week's work done in about a half a day.
Oh, nice.
And it was one of those jobs where you just got to kind of look at the clock, and it's horrible. But
some jobs are like that.
But it paid $50 an hour, and I was billing out full weeks.
Yeah.
And then I was doing, I think my first year part-time in real estate, I did like 70,000 in commission. In addition to the salary that I had.
So you had a great first year.
Absolutely. And it was even one of those things like, when do I rip the Band-Aid off and stop this easy, it's not like that for most people.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky. And I like to think that, God was kind of guiding me a bit there. Yeah. And because whenever I got into it to get this IDX feed, like Zillow came out and Truly, and I was like, oh, I'm done. Like,
yeah, you're like, okay,
now what are we doing?
These big companies are going to really take over.
But yeah, and then I started generating my own leads on Facebook because my background, I knew how to do it.
Yeah.
You could still get leads from Facebook that were okay. And that's where I started. And I did not start on a team.
Yeah.
I started, then I got married. And I will tell you, this is a funny story. And I tell it to every agent that joins our team.
Okay.
So my wife worked for the University of Phoenix, and she did enrollment, and she worked there for years, and like 10 years at least. And her job was to basically listen to people make calls and critique them. And I had never been in a sales job before, ever. I was a computer nerd. And so I'm like,
you still are a computer nerd.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I mean, I was shy. And
that's
people
hard to imagine.
Right. Yeah. I know. And so we were just dating. She had a rental house in Lakewood, and I lived in Lakewood.
Okay.
And she sat there, and she sat next to me. I was like, gosh, I've got these leads. I guess I need to call them. And she said, "What would you like for me to sit right next to you and listen to you and critique you?" I was like, "Absolutely not. That is not happening." And it's like, "You're going to stay up here. I'm going to close every door to the back of the house. I'm going to soundproof it for a while so you don't hear anything." And I came out maybe 2 hours later and just dripping sweat. She's like, "How'd that go?" I was like, "That's the worst thing I've ever had to do in my life."
To call these people?
Yes, it was terrifying. And then she just looked at me. She goes, "Hey, it's a muscle. You got to exercise it." And now I'm awesome at it. And I tell that story to people because you're new into this. It is kind of scary.
Yeah.
And that call reluctance is there. Like, what if they ask me a question I don't know the answer to? Well, the response to that's easy. It's like, "That's a great question. I'll find out."
Yeah.
It's not hard.
Now you have a reason to call back.
That's right. So it's easy. So that's sort of the path into real estate. And so when she got her license, we decided to do deals together, and I was generating her leads, husband-wife team. And that's sort of where the team started going. And then she got pregnant with the twins, and she is Guinness Book of World Records on maternity leave. So
she's still on maternity leave.
8 years now, but it's a full-time job.
Of course, yeah. And so you've been growing the team since then. What does your team look like now?
So we got it up to about 30 agents, and then we tore it down last year. And we got it down to about, a core group of 10 or 11.
Okay.
And so we're building it back up now and doing it correctly. So I once saw Lance Loken speak at the Angelica, and he said, I did everything wrong. And I went and spoke to him afterwards and I said, I'm so glad you say that because I feel like I'm on the same path to get all wrong. And so we continue to learn. And I think that coaching is really important for somebody who's been there and walked in your shoes to guide you on how to do that. And I think for me, coaching started with like, are you the right leads and things like that.
I remember when you first signed up for coaching.
Right.
And quite a while back.
Yeah, and you were there. So it was, a buddy of mine, Mike Novak, and in Seattle, he's the one that said, hey, you need to join this. And it's like, well, what do you think I should do? He's like, hey, I just gave you the key. Go through the door, man.
Yeah.
With way more colorful language, if you know Mike. But, the coaching was really instrumental. And we started just baby steps and getting team agreements and things like that in place. Like, do you have an assistant? Are you doing this the right way? Are you putting the cart before the horse by going out and getting all these buyer agents? And when do you get out of production? And do you want to get out of production? And for me, I did. The house is great. I like the analytics and the back end. So
and leading the team and
right. So your coaching just evolves. And now my coaching is still a lot of fixing things.
Of course.
But also it is a lot of learning how to be a better leader for our team. And we all struggle with that at times.
What does that look like to you when you say be a better leader?
Oh gosh. Well, I think I was a horrible one to start with.
I doubt that, but this is a tricky business because it's kind of a free for all. Like to your point, it's a dynamic industry. Things are constantly changing. But it's also like a free for all because there's the coaching is super helpful because you can get some structure around a business where you could do all kinds of things.
Right.
And you can go all kinds of directions. Some work a lot better than others.
Right. Absolutely. And I think the right coach matters. And I think you've got to mesh with them. It's just like a team member or an employee it has to be a culture fit no matter what or who the person is. So for me on leadership though, it was learning how to inspect what I expect. It was learning how to try and maybe take a breath or count to 10 like a 7-year-old like I teach my kids. Because I'm my personality is a high D, high I. And
that's funny because I'm the opposite. I'm a high S.
Right. Yeah, and I can see that. And so I have to learn how to communicate with the different people on the team. And so, but also just instill the things that I know to be true about real estate. And a lot of times it's just continuing to tell people it's going to be okay. Just you're doing everything right.
Gotta be patient.
It's frustrating. And again, as a 44-year-old, I will use the analogy that is completely lost on millennials is that, it's not like encyclopedia sales where it's just like this quick sale. You just go knock on the door and you buy something. It's like, no, this is going to take a while. And the agent's like, what's the encyclopedia?
Right. So it's what Wikipedia was.
Yeah, it's like, that's right.
Oh, that's funny to think about.
Yep.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about was living in North Texas. And you mentioned Lakewood.
Right.
And then I know you're in Prosper now, but you didn't go straight from Lakewood to Prosper. Where are some spots you've lived?
We went from Lakewood to Frisco.
Okay.
And then to Prosper. Okay. So
But you were in Frisco for a while, weren't you?
4 years.
4 years.
4 years. We built a house. I think we fall right in that timeline of when people move. It's like, oh, this house is awesome. I'm never leaving. And then 3 years go by and you're like,
there are things I want.
Yeah, it's time to go. Well, you have kids. And for me, I love Frisco. It's kind of gotten overcrowded for me.
Your office is in Frisco now too, right?
It is. Yeah. We're going to move to Plano, but it's a temporary space right now. So.
It's funny because I'm a big fan of Plano. I actually feel like Frisco feels more crowded than Plano, even though I think Plano has a much larger population for the time being.
We also wanted more yard.
Yeah.
That's
These
the
newer neighborhoods really don't have a lot of yards.
They don't. And so one of the things that we got lucky again, it's just like, again, I said it earlier, it's a God thing for me that these things just line up where we put our house on the market and we got our price and it's like, well, we should probably go find a house. and I thought we were going to have to rent. And then Lindsay went by an open house and she said, hey, you need to go see this house. And I said, do you like it? So yeah, I was like, I don't need to go see it. Like, just write an offer. Yeah. And it was really well priced. And I was able, I did the silliest thing where I put this price on there that was like my kid's birthday. And I put it in a letter, like all the things that they tell you doesn't work.
Yeah, and it worked.
And it did. Yeah. And I had one guy on our team that always put crazy numbers in his offers. And I was like, that is the silliest thing to do. And
was it multiple offers?
Oh, tons of them, like 30-something offers. And, you know, but we have like 0.8 of an acre. And
nice.
And it's in Prosper, which I feel is way smaller of a community. And it's continuing to boom just like anything else. And so it'll just continue to grow all the way to Oklahoma.
Until we get to Texas.
We're not leaving that house unless we're moving away.
Out of Texas or?
Yes, out of Texas.
Interesting. Okay, so what is it you like so much about Prosper?
I like the small town feel. Okay. I like the backyard.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that can, if it's raining, I can just go sit out back, and as long as I'm not getting wet, I'm just like like the guy that will like raise his garage and just pull a chair out and just sit there, you know.
Yeah.
And it's and for us, we're at home a lot more with kids. So
yeah. And schools and kids. Yeah.
And the schools there, so our kids go to Prestonwood and Prosper, and they love their friends. And so because of that, you know, my parents are divorced, Lindsay's parents were divorced. We don't want our kids to go through that. Yeah. And it's not the divorce part, but the having to start over with friends. And that's tough. So, but, you know, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, life is funny.
It is. So, you know, she wants chickens. Our HOA won't allow chickens. she literally wants to move to Tennessee to have chickens. And
yeah, like sweetheart,
she thinks she can get it through the HOA as a emotional support animal.
Maybe she could become the HOA president.
Gosh, please no.
I mean, everybody needs to do that job. It's chickens, huh? I guess certain neighborhoods in Plano you can have chickens. I guess it all depends. Limitations on roosters.
You don't have to have a rooster to get eggs.
Right. But the roosters are the noisy ones.
Yeah, that's correct.
So
you know your chickens and roosters. Yeah. Good job.
Yeah. What are your spots to go in Prosper? Like to go out to eat, or I haven't figured that out yet. I feel like I spent a lot of time up there, but
we go to the Gin. It's
like GIN, like
yes,
Gin. Okay.
It's been there forever, and the food is good. They have live music. And the kids can run around outside, and we're definitely not the chain restaurant people. Not that we don't love Chick-fil-A,
of course,
delicious,
of course.
But you know, and that's more of the kids thing. And it's silly. We joke about, like, you know, again, 7-year-old twin boys. They eat the same thing at home that they do out. Like, hey, what would you like? We're at Bob's Steakhouse. Oh, do you have chicken fingers and macaroni and cheese?
Like, no.
Yes, that'll be $200.
Yeah, so I think they're coming, but I don't. So Gin is the restaurant. Any other good spots up there? I talk about it like it's Oklahoma.
So right,
it's not.
It's like 10 minutes from you.
Correct.
So we'll go into Frisco. We'll go to Plano. We'll go to the shops. We'll go to Legacy West. Salina, the square in Salina is great. The McKinney Square is great. So just different places, but for the most part, you know, we've been blessed with Lindsay's family. My twin brother, I have a twin brother too, and he lives in Lake Highlands. So we see each other. And matter of fact, he came to my office yesterday. So, and really freaked out a few of my newer agents. He just popped in and said, "Hey, team meeting about to start." And this new guy, Nick, he was like, "Wait a second."
I remember meeting your brother at like a party you guys were having, and it's like, I know this isn't Brent, but this is really weird talking to you right now.
And he came and played on our kickball team a few years ago. And one of the husbands of Brittany Smart, who you've met, her husband was like, "When did Brent get all these tattoos on his legs?" And his hair is so long. Like, what's going on?
Gosh, this happened so quick. So you and your twin are different, personality-wise.
We are, but we're still goofy. You know, we can... I know what he's going to say before he says it.
He knows what you're going to say too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So your boys will probably be the same way.
They're fraternal. So Brad and I are identical. I think they're completely different.
Really?
Completely different. Yeah.
Okay.
So Grayson is more the sports guy. Ben's now getting into his new thing is Cub Scouts. And he loves it.
Are you like starting to do Cub Scout dad stuff?
So it just started a couple weeks ago, and they had a camp out this past weekend, and Lindsay actually took him.
Oh.
Grayson had a baseball game, and I'm his coach. So I'm his assistant coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Divide
great.
and conquer.
They didn't spend the night. They went for all day and shot BB guns. And
Where was it?
It was in Camp Wisdom, all the way South Dallas, like by I-20. You know Camp Wisdom Road?
Yeah, I do.
There you go.
Interesting.
It's pretty cool.
Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts and all of that.
Were you an Eagle Scout?
I was. Yeah. Surprised.
Then you went right into the Army.
Not right into the Army. Some things in between. But yeah, it was good memories. That'll be fun for your son.
It's good because
you too.
he's not so much into sports as his brother is. So when you're a boy, it's everybody wants to play sports.
In Texas.
In Texas. Well, really anywhere. It's like whatever the sport is, I think that there's something. And we've gotten him into some other things like coding and piano. But what we found is he wants to be with other kids.
Yeah.
So we needed something more in that group environment, and I think he'll thrive in it. It's awesome.
That's good. Awesome. So you live in Prosper, Frisco, Dallas. Somebody who's thinking about moving to Texas, because a lot of people are. What advice would you give to them?
Well, I guess it depends on where they're moving from.
For
example, let's say California.
I think,
crazy. Some of the things that we talk about is just how it's so much different than where they're coming from. I feel like, and you've probably experienced this too, is like we've actually lost clients because they showed up and then an ice storm happened. And like, what is happening out here? It's like, this is once every 3 years for 2 days.
Yeah, you just came in the wrong week.
Right. And or the tornadoes are just everywhere, and that's
really, you're like, what tornado?
Yeah, right. Although last week my trampoline ended up in the front yard, so I don't know what happened.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yes.
I was out of town, so I was oblivious to all this. Stay up to date on all things home and lifestyle with my weekly newsletter, Into the Weekend with Matt, where I share the latest real estate updates, new videos from my team, advice for both buyers and sellers, and more. To sign up, go to hastingsre.com/ITW. That's HAISTINGSRE.com/ITW.
But yes,
moving to Texas.
So moving to Texas, I think you need to find out what their reasonings are, and I think it's different for everyone. You know, when you have people that are moving for a job, where's their job? Do they have kids? Are schools important? You know, it's really just those probing questions that you ask whenever you're getting to know somebody. And I think that, although we try and guide them to educate themselves on a lot of these things, and there's things we aren't going to talk to them about or aren't supposed to talk to them about. But for me, I think my focus is in the North Dallas area. And so I really like it. I wouldn't live in South Dallas, and there's nothing wrong with living in South Dallas.
Yeah. But for clients too, you're like, look, this is the area I know.
But we love Lakewood.
If you want to go down here, I'm maybe not your best person because we don't know it.
Well, that's what's nice about having a team, right?
Yeah.
So, and our team is spread out all the way from Collin County all the way down to Ellis County. So, so we're all over. And for me, like, we love Lakewood, and we sat there and we said, I don't think we'll ever leave Lakewood. It's awesome. And then now I'm like, man, I don't ever want to drive into Dallas if I can avoid it, because the traffic and my drive to work and back is pretty easy. So
you're probably on the tollway.
I've got my own little bubble now, and it's just I think as you get older, you just don't care about some of that stuff anymore.
Well, I think people forget how spread out North Texas is. It's a huge metro area.
Absolutely.
Like, big population, but it's spread over a lot of geography too.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, because we're in Oklahoma in 45 minutes, 50 minutes, right? So, what I don't like about it here is it's so much concrete, and there's less outdoor stuff, and there's less trees. And, again, coming from Mississippi and being able to go do those things, if you want
trees, there's a lot of trees in Mississippi.
Sure. If you want to go hunting or anything like that, you've got to go somewhere else. So
like we're in a city,
right?
That's the challenge.
Well, that's why Broken Bow has gotten so popular.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. So you guys recently built a vacation home up there. How did you choose that?
Well, we had been going for several years with families.
Okay.
And so, and then just like any other thing, we looked at the numbers. I'm analytical. I looked at the numbers. We had a house in Florida on 30A in that area. And so I looked at what we were doing with that, and its appreciation was considerable. Mm-hmm. So we did the 1031 into Broken Bow, and it should do better.
Yeah.
And then so we're building a second one. The other part of it too is, while 30A was a nice idea, I only went to that house once in 2 years.
2 years and you saw it once.
And I only saw it once.
Because it wasn't close. Right? It's all the hassle
drove
of traveling.
there. We drove there and drove back. And when we got back, I told Lindsay, I am never going to make that drive again. Ever. Yeah. It was miserable with kids, and she doesn't drive. I do all the driving.
Oh, snap.
Well, because I drive faster.
Yeah, okay.
So we're going to get there sooner. And
so Broken Bow, though, was what, an hour and a half?
Probably 2.5.
Okay.
But that's just under what gets annoying. It's also a very pretty drive. Mm-hmm. So you've been out to Broken Bow,
yeah,
right?
I've camped out there.
Yeah. So it is a pretty drive going through those little towns. And so, there's plenty of fun stuff to do there. Every outdoor activity you can think of is there. And it's continuing to just blow up. I haven't confirmed it, but I heard that Disney bought 400 acres out there. So follow Disney.
That's all speculation.
Follow Disney.
Maybe. Well, it's like for Dallas people or DFW people, that's like a very popular spot, I hear.
That is what made Broken Bow. There's
Dallas.
so much money,
yeah.
and it's so close. That is, I know people who own 10, 11, 12 of them. And
oh, wow.
We're working on our second one now. I don't know if I would build another one. It's going to get saturated, and it's already getting saturated out there.
Yeah.
So the one we just finished is fine. There's nothing wrong. It's a nice cabin. It's great. And it should rent just fine. So it's a good investment property.
Right.
So, and that's how I see it. A lot of people don't realize that, the biggest part of your retirement is usually real estate. Mm-hmm. So if you're not out there buying houses.
I know, I see these closings and these huge checks, and I'm like, whew, that's good.
It is, but it's owning doors and I like the Airbnb side of it.
What do you like about it?
Well, it's short-term rental, clearly, but it's less wear and tear on your property. If they break things, they have to pay for it. And so we even have we have damage protection and things like that up to like $6,000-$7,000. So if anyone does anything, then it's handled. And we're property. That's the other thing too, is we're property managing ourselves in Broken Bow because we're so close, versus Florida, which we had to pay someone 23% of everything we made, and now we don't have to do that. So that's a big difference in income.
I hadn't thought about that with Airbnb compared to a regular lease. I've always been more biased towards telling people, I think you should do a long-term lease because it's steady, predictable cash flow. And the game, a lot of it, the game in real estate is appreciation.
Right.
But I didn't think about the damage, like you said, like a person who makes it their home is going to treat it harder than somebody who feels like they're a short-term guest. Well, I was thinking the opposite. I was actually thinking people coming in and out all the time would be worse on the house.
Well, we were there for spring break because it just got done. It just got furnished. And we brought family there, and we brought our dogs, and we left going, we're never bringing our dogs again. They just run off in the woods. And, they come in muddy and gross, and they can't get on anything because it's got to stay nice. And so it's different when we've been renting there for several years, where I feel like as a renter of short term, you're going to certainly care less about what you're doing to that property. Not that you're being disrespectful or anything like that, but I'm fixing everything every second. Like, no, this is supposed to be like that. Get off of that dog. You're not allowed to do that. Well, if you're renting, you don't care. And so that part is a little weird, but I do want to kind of switch my focus to more things locally here. If it continues to appreciate the way it has been appreciating. What do you think?
Are you thinking about like the real estate market?
Here. Do you think it's going to continue to appreciate crazy?
Well, I think it's going to be less than 2022. But I
don't know if it can get any higher than that.
Yeah, I still see a lot of appreciation in the cards for DFW, North Texas.
Right.
I mean, I think it's easy for people to forget the supply and demand is what sets the price. And there's major demand for moving here. And then there's just not a lot of supply.
What do you think when you started, what was the median sales price here or average sales price?
Gosh, I love the numbers. I bet in Plano it was probably around low threes, maybe 325.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And you remember, being a real estate agent, like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And now, like, averages around 500.
Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be shocked if we were an average of 550, like in Plano,
right,
by the end of the year.
So it's wild to think that. And so while I look at the long-term hold game, where people say, well, you might be making $200 a month. Well, your water heater goes out. There you go.
Gone.
That's gone. So, but when it appreciates $100K in 2 years, go get 10 of those.
Do you think we're still going to see more of that? The 100K, using the example of 500K.
I think you need to be more careful with what you're investing in. Mm-hmm. And I feel like you could just be really willy-nilly, like everything was going up.
Yeah. Well, I always tell people, hey, look, a rising tide lifts all boats.
That's right.
You got to be in the market, and it doesn't necessarily, you can't game it too much.
If you wait for the perfect scenario, you're going to miss your opportunity.
Yeah.
So
it is unpredictable. I think that's a nice way to say it right now is a lot of people have uncertainty, so they just don't want to do anything. I see that with a lot of our team's buyers where they're like, well, they just don't have the certainty to want to move forward.
And it's a tough argument when you say as a real estate agent, well, look at the historical interest rates, because 6 is historically pretty good.
Yeah. But all their friends who bought last year got 3.5.
Right. So on my house, it's like 2.25 or something like that. And that's
never coming back.
It's never coming back. But you also have to take into account, like, oh, well, look, they used to have 18% interest rates. And like, well, a house used to cost $80,000.
Yeah.
So a little bit different.
Yeah. I think my parents told me they bought their first house for $60,000 and it was 18% interest, like in the early
It is
80s.
Funny as, moving to Plano and then getting your real estate license and then just being bored one day and looking up what your dad paid for his house back in the early 1990s. And I'm like, whoa.
What?
That's crazy. We should still have that house.
Yeah. Why did we sell that? So you could buy a bigger one. We just keep trading up.
That's right.
Yeah. So you're bullish still on 2023 real estate market. This is my takeaway from that conversation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not? I feel like Dallas's DFW is insulated.
I think that's the caveat too.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm bullish on North Texas, DFW area, well, most of Texas, but I know this better. I'm not bullish like on everywhere, like California, Oregon. I don't know those areas, but I also am less optimistic about those.
I would be too.
Yeah. Again, that speaks to my bias. So one of the other things I thought would be fun to talk about is entrepreneurship in North Texas.
Awesome.
Because you're an entrepreneur. You've grown your team. How many houses do you think you'll sell this year?
Wow, that depends on the market. I can tell you
how many are available to sell.
I can tell you. Well, interest rates factor into it as well. I am hoping, because last year we did 265.
That's a lot of homes.
A lot of homes, and I'm hoping we can get to over 300 this year, maybe 350.
Yeah, that's almost a house a day.
That would be
a family.
That
a
would
day.
be, that would be a fun goal to say I only sold a house a day.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
But on that journey, because it didn't start with hundreds of houses, it started with a few, like we talked about before, and calling the Facebook leads. How would you say the environment is here for an entrepreneur?
I mean, there's opportunity everywhere. Mm-hmm. You just got to go out there and take it. It's up to you to put in the work. Real estate's not easy. This is not easy. That's the biggest thing is, the TV shows and the $1 million listing. And, you think Ryan Serhant started where he started?
No.
Absolutely not. And did he have a leg up being like on soap operas and stuff? Absolutely. But
I'd
be a quasi-celebrity, going into it.
I think about this a lot. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, go ahead.
That the good agents make it look easy.
Well,
so
that's where the team and leadership within the team is important. So this team model is you do hire new agents, and you need to not only set expectations on how you're going to do this, because there's so much you could be doing. Yes, leads are nice, but you have a sphere of influence, and there are people that just moved here that don't. And they want to get their real estate license. Where do I start? You need coaching. I really think as a new real estate agent, you need to be on a team.
Yeah.
I think
we have the same bias.
But I think that when we started, teams weren't they almost had like a black mark against them. and
not anymore.
Not anymore at all.
Not
I think that's the way it goes, where you see that 80, they say the 80-20 rule. I think it's more like 90% of the houses are sold by the top 10% of agents.
I think so.
And you look at the numbers, and where you see people that are selling 2 or 3 houses a year, or one or none, they need to be on a team. They need help. Because they're just like, now what do I do? Yeah. And that's when I got my real estate license. I said, okay, now what? I had no idea. And thankfully I got lucky. Mm-hmm. So I had people that guided me along the way. Like I said, I worked at Mary Kay. My first deal was a guy that worked in the cubicle next to me. And I gave it to my sponsor at Keller Williams. And I said, hey, I don't even want the commission. I just want you to teach me.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that because I was getting a paycheck. So not everyone has that luxury. You still tell people you need to have 6 months worth of savings. Mm-hmm. And we had this meeting. I had a lunch meeting or breakfast meeting yesterday with one of our agents, and just said, I said, are you getting frustrated yet? He's only been doing this 5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
That's it. But you know what? He's gotten 3 buyer reps signed already.
Wow.
It's like, that's actually really impressive. You should be really proud. You're doing everything right. Keep doing it. What you do now and don't do now is what will happen in 90 days from now in real estate. So
that's the tricky thing.
It is, and it's a grind, and you have to be able to grind. But entrepreneurship, I am clearly all for it.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to think of different ways. And for our team, and again, this is something that I learned from my coaches, we want our team members to live the biggest life they can possibly live. Mm-hmm. And, if they win, I certainly win.
Yeah.
When they lose, I lose. And if they all lost, I lose big. But when you know what? When they all win, I win big.
Yeah.
So it really averages itself out, and it's fun, mm-hmm. and it's stressful. It's running a team is not for everybody, and I can tell you the doubt is there once a week. I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yes.
But I'm not in production. Mm-hmm. And so I have my weekends free, which is nice. I try to go home I'm supposed to go home by 3. I go home by about 5 every day, unless it's piano day or something like that, a kid activity. But the goal is to take a month off this summer, and I've never done that.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Go somewhere.
Where's your dream place to go for a month? Or is it going to be a series of places?
I would love to do state parks. I think we are a little late on that. Apparently, through my research,
you have to book far in advance in the summer. Yeah.
Right. So I would like to go somewhere. Well, see, here's what spawned this. 114, 115 degrees last summer. It was miserable in July in Texas last year. It's not always that bad. It was
a rough summer.
So bad. And I said, we're getting out of here. Let's go somewhere. Whether it's North Carolina or Colorado or, bounce around. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. Let's go somewhere that's not 110 degrees.
Yeah.
So
now that's your goal is, okay, get the team running so I can take a month off.
Right.
Or travel for a month.
And that's where we are now. There's a book that I read called Who Not How, mm-hmm. and making sure
you're the second person to tell me about that book recently.
You need to. I
have a long book list. Yeah.
Yes, but I will tell you that book I listened to it, and on my way to work and back, and it takes like 2 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. And it's almost like the title is what I got out of it, like just hire correctly.
Yeah.
So but it was worth me reading that.
To remember that.
So you don't need to read it now.
Thank you.
That's Cliff.
All right, let me check out my Cliff Notes.
Cliff Notes. Those are Brent Notes.
The Brent Notes. Those would probably be more humorous than Cliff Notes. So yeah, Colorado. I mean, I love Colorado, which we've talked about before.
Awesome.
And I think a lot of the really affluent families in like the Park Cities own homes in Colorado for that mm-hmm. very reason, to skip the heat in the summer.
It is, and that's what started. Colorado is the reason that I started investing in Airbnbs, because I wanted to get one. We love going to Snowmass Village right outside of Aspen. And so there was one, and I started doing the numbers on it. It's like, and it was like 600,000, a little ski in, ski out.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Oh, it's not that anymore. I wish I had bought it. It's like 1.8 now.
Right.
And but I started looking at the numbers and like, okay, they want $3,000 a month for HOAs, and they take 50% in property management. It's like, well, unless I'm paying cash, I'm not making any money at all. Mm-hmm. So that's out. And I called a fraternity brother in Florida, and he said, "Yeah, here you go." So we went that route, and it was great. It'd make an income 75, 80 a year.
And that was lucky timing too, because Florida, like in the last couple of years, has blown up.
Well, this
in
will,
a good way.
This will blow your mind. I won't say his name, but I asked him the other day. I said, how was your? This maybe a couple months ago. I said, how was your year last year? And he's like, I think I sold less than 20 houses. And I said, well, that had to have been okay though, like at least 30 million in volume. He's 62. You ready to move to Florida?
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. Our price points on our team
it's like
are
your
not
average
close
price
to
point's
that.
3 point something.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's
records.
a different dynamic completely.
Completely.
I think about that when you talked about the conversation, like what am I doing running a team or like in real estate. I sometimes think about that, like maybe I should change the approach completely and just do like luxury, just be me. I still like having a team.
I do too.
Your team is growing.
Yes.
Who's the ideal agent for your team?
Oh my gosh. Culture fit's number one for us.
Yeah.
So you have to be a culture fit. You can't have, one bad apple spoils the bunch. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the beginning of it. You've got to have a work ethic. We used to do a lot of personality assessments and seeing what your disc profile is. Yeah. Now we use something called the widget, and it's a different.
Heard of that?
It's right up your alley on stuff. And it's again through our coach, and one of the coaches in our coaching system is coaching one of our VP of sales, and so he loves this widget, and it stands for. And if he ever sees this, probably gonna butcher it, but it's like wonder, invention, detractor, galvanizer, enabler, and tenacity. I think is what.
So people are rated on like those.
Yes.
Scales.
So you have your what's called
a
working genius, and
I like that.
Yeah. So I found out I was actually really irritated when I did mine.
But I'm not a genius.
Yes, right. I was really frustrated, and because I'm definitely a wanderer. Like I'm always head's always in the clouds, thinking of different ideas. And it came back that my working genius was like detractor. Like I'm the guy who pokes holes in every idea. And now that I've gotten that, I see myself doing it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Now you're like, that's totally you.
Yeah.
And the other one was inventor, so I got that one going
too.
too.
Maybe I should take this now.
But when you're hiring it, it's $20. Go take it. It's easy. And so whenever you're hiring like a transaction coordinator, they need to fall within a certain category so their personality can handle it. Yeah. And so we are right now hiring a client care person and sort of business development. And that person needs to be a galvanizer. Mm-hmm. And this person is that we're hiring, and they'll start on Monday.
Nice.
So, our head of sales is and our head trainer is a wanderer. And it's interesting.
It's fun to see how they come together, right?
It really is. It really is. And our operations person is tenacity and detractor. And we
butt heads. I think I know who your operations person.
You know exactly who it is. And if she sees this, she's like, yeah. She knows it.
That's funny. So you're hiring. If people want to apply, they can find you online, I'm sure.
Gosh, my team will make fun of me for saying this because it's one of my catchphrases. Google it. You can find me. Of course. It's not that hard.
Now, you've been talking a lot about your coach. You're co-hosting an event with him coming up, I think.
Yes.
Right?
So my my coach is Eric Hatch with Hatch Coaching. He's one of the top 20 coaches in the country. And this is, at the beginning of the year, he challenged me to give back more. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, we're tithing, charity, because we do those things. And we just kind of came up with why don't you come here and come see our team? And so he wants to do that. He's got a couple other Texas. He's making his little Texas tour.
Texas, okay.
Yeah, so he'll do College Station and then come up here and then go to Abilene. And so while he's doing that, I said, well, why don't we spend another day and give back to the real estate community? Because let's be honest with each other. There is enough real estate business for all of us. Mm-hmm. And
especially here.
And it's one of those things we're going to do it at Glen Eagles on April 18th. You and your team need to be there.
Okay. Duly noted.
Duly noted. So but what I tell people is, if you're out there selling 3-4 houses a year, what does it mean to you if you can double that? If you're doing 10 and you can start doing 20, if you walk away from 3 hours, it's better than any CE class you're going to take.
Yeah.
And it's not like, hey, go buy leads. That's not where it's not, hey, we're building a team. We're not talking about that stuff. He's going to be talking about the 8 things you need to be doing to double your business. And it's going to be a lot of this stuff that's working your sphere correctly and how to talk to people. And so it'll be a lot of that. It's going to be really interesting. So we're trying to get as many people there as we can.
Is it by invite only, or somebody listening who's an agent could come?
Yeah, they can. Absolutely. It's $20. I've got to pay for it somehow.
Yeah.
Glen Eagles isn't cheap.
Yes, I'm well aware. Awesome. Well, so if somebody wants to get a hold of you more broadly, just Google it.
Well, realistically, this is a really original email address. Brent@BrentGermanyTeam.com.
That's going to be a tricky one.
It is.
Awesome.
And I wish it's too late now, but I wish I had thought something cooler. It started as the Germany team, and then we started getting people asking us, like, are you like a German bobsled team or like some sort of Olympic thing? And it's like, no.
You're like, no, we don't specialize in people from Germany moving to Texas.
We talked to someone last year who said that, she's like, we thought you were Russian. And I was like, what? It was really confusing.
Huh.
Yeah. Strange.
I think there is a trend of real estate teams like switching away from the team leader's name to like a brand.
I wish we had done that.
Yeah.
Apparently I'm not the wanderer, right? So I couldn't think of anything creative
Yeah.
and didn't take the time to do it. And maybe I set some limiting beliefs on what we were able to accomplish in real estate. And that may be the biggest thing, because once we hit coaching, we've doubled our business every year.
That's so awesome.
It is. And it's so we've been blessed and really fortunate, but I am not the spotlight guy. I'm the guy that just wants to do the work. And I wish it wasn't my name, honestly.
Really?
I do.
Let's think of a name. What could it be?
I don't know.
Oh, there's a lot.
Well,
of,
also like the web address is so long on our emails. There's just a lot to. I really wish I had thought of something shorter.
So I have a problem for us because
Yours
I have
is at Haistings RE, right?
Yeah,
that's great.
So we've shortened it, but they have the I in my last name, that's the legal name. But
right.
Of course, people don't think about that, so there's commonly misspelled. And I'm like, I wonder how many missed emails or missed opportunities are there because
we just need to ask ChatGPT to think of a nice name and then get them to design us something, and we're done.
I have a friend who is building a whole business and using ChatGPT as like, how do I do it? Like, how do I do the brand strategy? And like, he's really learned how to prompt it to give him the answers he needs and like do the market data and research all that. It's so cool.
I don't know if I believe my friend who said he got them to write 150 performance reviews for his employees.
I don't know that I believe that either. It doesn't sound very custom. Doesn't sound very performance oriented.
But when I saw my brother yesterday, he said he used it to build a website and for a nonprofit that he's trying to do. And
it did the code and everything?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Mind blowing.
Right?
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole.
It's the Matrix. Yeah.
It's the Matrix. So we're living in the Matrix now. Well, I really appreciate you joining me today. Is there anything you wanted to chat about that we missed in this conversation of
Oh my gosh.
all things
you and I could
real
chat
estate
all day
life?
long.
I know.
But
it's always enjoyable.
No, this has been fun.
I appreciate you coming, and I wish you continued prosperity this year
Appreciate
and
it.
beyond.
Have you been thinking about moving to North Texas? Maybe you're looking in Plano, Dallas, Frisco, or the surrounding communities. Each year, our team helps dozens of families make the move to Texas. We'd love to help you begin your journey. Learn more on our website at hastingsre.com. That's HAISTINGSRE.com.